President Clinton. The media bias on this is just extraordinary because he's defying a congressional subpoena that was voted on by both parties. This is not a partisan subpoena. Do either of you know the circumstances under which President Clinton met Jeffrey Epstein, the circumstances surrounding the photos that have been released? Do you think President Clinton's ever been asked that question? Donald Trump's been asked 1,000 times about the circumstances of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, although I would say even there, not enough, because we don't really know, like what did they actually do together? President Trump's never given that account. But the coverage of this is so minimal today. He's defying a congressional subpoena voted on by both parties.
Yep.
He wrote a letter basically saying, I don't have to tell you anything and stay out of my personal life. And it's barely being covered. And I'll say again, I don't know. And I can tell you this, for years now, his team has gotten away with saying, we never went to the island. We deplored Jeffrey Epstein. We didn't know what he was doing illegal. I don't think either Donald Trump or Bill Clinton broke the law in their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, not just because there's no evidence of that, but because my sense of their relationships. They didn't break the law, but they did unseemly things with him. Okay? So my question, Kevin, is how is this going to end? Is President Clinton going to go to jail for defying this? Will a court say the subpoena is not lawful? How will this end?
No one's going to jail over this, certainly, and including a former president, similar to when Donald Trump was prosecuted after he left office. I read the 4-page letter. They're couching this in more of a national kind of resistance moment between Bill and Hillary and Republicans on the Hill. I think James Comer is not a great oversight chair for many reasons. Number one, because he sets expectations so high and then delivers nothing burger after nothing burger. I'm surprised that for how savvy the former president is, that he hasn't done like a sit down interview with a supportive reporter, right, to lay this all out. In terms of your questions, Mark, when did they become in each other's orbits? It has been just, we haven't been to the island, we did nothing untoward. I'm surprised he hasn't sat down actually to provide more details in a friendlier interview setting.
Larry, why I've asked this without prejudice and truly don't know the answer. The media hounded Larry Summers to resign from everything he was on and to be fired from everything he was on. He didn't break any law either, as far as we know. He just was very chummy with Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton's in a hot tub. He's on the plane. Why is the press, which is normally interested in everything about Jeffrey Epstein, not interested in the fact that a former president of the United States is defying a bipartisan subpoena to avoid answering questions about Jeffrey Epstein? Why is the press not more interested in that story?
Because they're on his side. I'm sorry. It's just most of them are. I mean, I would think George Stephanopoulos would be able to get Clinton to sit down for a very exclusive interview about this topic. I think they go way back. Yeah. I honestly, I think they see this story as a political weapon to damage Donald Trump, and that's the only reason they've been on it. By the way, I'm sorry, I've got a ghost in my
That's okay. I see that. Kevin, is Larry's analysis is correct? The press is not into this because they're pro-Clinton and anti-Trump. Is that the reason?
I don't know necessarily if that's true because obviously it was covered on Fox News quite a bit and more conservative outlets and stuff like that.
When we say the media, you know who he's talking about, and I'm talking about when we say the media.
I mean again, the fact that the subpoena is bipartisan is not a small point. This is not Comer on some partisan witch hunt. The Democrats.
It's more than bipartisan. The Democrats led the charge on this.
Yeah, and
it was all Democrats and like 4 Republicans, I think, right?
The Democratic spokesperson for the committee was quoted in somewhere today. I only saw her quoted in one place saying, "Yeah, President, we want to work this out. We need to know what President Clinton thinks." The Clintons are right on the merits, I believe. I should say they don't know anything about the committee's mandate, which is what happened with the investigation. They're right about that. There's no evidence that either Clinton knows anything about the legislative oversight project of looking into how the investigations into Maxwell and Epstein were conducted. So on the merits, yes, but the committee wants them to answer questions, and they're declining, even though it's a bipartisan subpoena.
So one interesting fact about this, though, Mark, too, is that Ashley Callan, who's Speaker Johnson's former Republican counsel to the Oversight Committee, is one of the lead attorneys with the Clintons. So, obviously she's got insights from before in terms of operations and all that, and clearly helped draft this letter in response, ticking off some of the key points, in terms of the Clintons being treated different than the other folks that have been subpoenaed and things like that. So, there is a high level Republican operative and lawyer involved in the Clinton response.
Yes. Well, they're not dumb. Kevin, can I ask you a quick question? Because you said no one's going to jail on this, and okay, but just for my own information when I do my radio show, so I can explain to my listeners, on what legal principle will no one go to jail on this, considering Steve Bannon went to jail for this exact same thing?
It might not be a legal understanding of it. I think optically, this is why I had a problem with anyone saying that Donald Trump, because of these different indictments in the interregnum between the administrations, was going to jail. This country would have a very difficult problem optically with a former president with Secret Service protection in a minimum security prison.
Either.
So there is no legal principle.
Yeah. Well,
there is no legal.
There is a legal principle, which is no former president has been compelled to testify before Congress. That's a legal principle. I think they are treated differently. President Ford did, but it was voluntary. I think that
while he was president too.
Either Congress is not going to, either the Justice Department is not going to prosecute, although I don't know why they wouldn't, or President Clinton's going to go to court rather than write a letter. He's going to go to court and try to get a judge to throw it out and say it's not a legit. And again, on the legal merits, I think you'd have a good case, because Congress is not the executive branch. They're not supposed to be doing an investigation except as it pertains to legislative oversight. Their stated legislative oversight is, how is the investigation conducted? President Clinton doesn't know anything about that, I believe. Okay.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the Morning Meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.